I respect everyone here, and I probably look at the world a little bit different than might some of you. I want to talk about three people who have called my office, and I'm sure everyone has gotten calls. One's a lady named Sally Johnson. None of y'all know Sally, but Sally lives in Watts in a housing development with other senior citizens. And her fear was that she's a diabetic. And her fear was that the drugstore that serves her provides service to a number of other people like her. Almost 80% of its residents are on Medi-Cal. And the store informed her that they're no longer going to take an IOU in the event that the state doesn't pay. She lives about 8 miles from the nearest emergency room where she'd have to go and get her diabetic medicine. The hospital that was near her closed because it had issues. The Catholic hospital nearby closed the emergency room because they couldn't afford to stay open. So when Ms. Johnson called me, she said, "Please don't let me die because of this state budget." There's another guy who called me from Westchester. Mr. Wilson is a contractor, and he's probably one of the folk that people have talked about because he's going to make some cash working for Caltrans. But he's got a family and 3 kids and a wife. And he's had a rough time for the last couple of years because it's been a difficult time for all of us in California. So Mr. Wilson called and said, "I hope you guys get this done, because I'm 2 steps from going into the welfare line myself, and I'm not sure there'll be any money left in the welfare line once I get there." I also got a call from a school teacher in Palos Verdes, a very affluent part of my district. Ms. Feldman was concerned because she's still paying off her student loan, and she just got a notice that said that she may not be rehired this June. She played by the rules. She did everything that we asked her to do, and now she's looking at potential unemployment and the fact that she may have to deal with those loans. Now, I'd be the first to admit that there are things in this budget that I don't like. On the natural, I think I wouldn't have voted for half of it, but I think, as Denise said, this is a compromise, and it forces you to have to come out of yourself and say, "Would I do something that I wouldn't normally do?" I would have liked to have done a greater personal income tax and closed a bigger portion of the Department of Corrections. I had that discussion with some members, and we may end up having that again. But I understand that I come here as one vote, and I've got to make sure that there's enough votes to get a plan through. So I didn't get the ability to unilaterally decide what would happen because I'm one of the members of this body. So I reach out beyond my comfort zone, but I want to take another point and say that I understand the philosophy of new taxes. And I respect every one of you, whether you signed a pledge or didn't, or you believe that that's what you should do. Because I believe that everyone here is an honorable person, and I don't get into the personal attack. But you know, I understand also being in a minority. I am a left-handed African-American male, moderate. Walk a mile in my Ferragamos if you really want to see what it's like to be in the minority. But for better or worse, the people in California are now looking to you to say, "What are you going to do to help me?" And if you think that this doesn't help, then I urge you, please, to vote no. So, but today I'm going to ask you, look into your heart, not your political persuasion, and see if you can summon the courage to do what's right and not what's political. What's at stake is the Sally Johnson, the George Wilsons, and the Esther Feldmans in your district, and you have them too. All of them who will suffer because we were not able to act, and they will suffer. I don't think there's any debate about whether or not we're facing dire circumstances. But if you look in your heart and you see that this is what you should do, then you know what? I'll respect that. I can respect Mr. Benoit and the issues about his bill. I don't think that that's the way we should operate. Clearly, this budget is not perfect, members, but I hope that we'll do something, that we don't let the perfect become the enemy of the good. But I'd make one other point. A great guy who died 2,000 years ago, he said something that still rings true today. And when speaking to his disciples, he said, "Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you did it unto the least of these, You did it unto me. And I would ask you today to consider the least of these in California and vote what's in your heart.